A love language is the way that a person speaks and actually feels and receives love from you. Dr. Gary Chapman actually wrote the book and identified 5 love languages. All of us speak one, some of us actually speak 2, and those love languages are words of affirmation, physical touch, spending quality time, receiving gifts, and acts of service. Knowing the 5 love languages and how to speak them is pivotal for your marriage, because oftentimes couples just don't speak the same love languages, and that's okay. But it can lead to stress and to arguments in your marriage because love isn't always communicated in a way that's received from the other person. For example, you might express your love to your spouse by writing poetry or writing cute love notes or sending texts throughout the day when your spouse is just kind of maybe even annoyed by that. Similarly, you might be a physical touch person where you express your love or show your love by, putting your arm around your spouse, holding your spouse's hand, or even kind of rubbing the forearm, and your spouse might just kind of be like, dude, don't touch me till later, right? So in this series, I'm going to be reviewing the 5 love languages with you, but also sharing with you how to speak your spouse's love language that's different from yours. So this video is going to be perfect for the person who is married to a spouse whose love language is words of affirmation. Stay tuned. It's Thriving Sexy Marriage. Hi, welcome back to the channel. I'm Owen. Me and my wife Theresa are marriage coaches, and we work with couples to help make their bad marriages good and their good marriages even better. We are uploading a few videos to the channel each week to help you have a more thriving, sexy, vibrant, healthy, amazing marriage. We believe marriage is the most important gift that God has given to humanity. It's what families come from, and it's also the institution that is under attack across the board from every single subgroup in the country. Marriage is either looked at as evil or old-fashioned, or we're not into marriage anymore, or your way of marriage is bad, but our way of marriage is good, and this kind of thing. And it's under attack because it's so amazing. And we want to help you live that marriage that you always wanted. A marriage where your spouse is your best friend, a marriage that's sexy and vibrant and physically satisfying, emotionally just energizing, and I have the greatest marriage ever, and we want the same thing for you, so be sure to subscribe. Now, if you haven't already taken the love language test, we've put a link to do that in the description box. It's a free test. You just go to the website, spend about 15-20 minutes with your spouse. You should definitely do it together and take the love languages test. Discover what each other's love language is, and then dig into these videos and really learn how to speak the other person's love language. Before we get too far into this, I want to clarify a couple things. Number one, love languages are not gender specific. And this is something that can really be confused, right? It's sort of like this stereotype that all men, their love language is physical touch and they just want sex to feel loved. While it's true that a lot of guys respond to physical touch, it's not just only guys. In a lot of cases, women feel that love through physical touch. And sometimes their husbands, they can be more introverted or artistic, and they want to express themselves with words, with artwork and these different things. And these kind of qualify as words of affirmation or gift giving. And so they can cause conflicts in those marriages. So keep that in mind, that the love languages are not gender specific. Also keep in mind that for every love language, there's a passive side and there's an active side. Okay, the active side is where you're actually doing the thing. You're speaking the love language, and your spouse is feeling your love. But the passive side is where you're not doing the thing. And although this isn't like a crime, it's not like you're intentionally withholding that thing. For example, some guys can be very introverted and not not feel like they should have to verbalize their love to their wife. Well, it's like, well, why should I need to tell my wife I love her every day? She knows that. Why should I have to text her, during the day? She already knows that. Well, she does probably, but her love language is words, and by withholding those words, she feels like you're withholding your love. All right, so there's a passive side where you don't do the thing and it actually is harmful for your marriage. And so we hope that through this series, you learn some different ways where you can actively use your spouse's love language to create a more thriving, sexy marriage. For a words person, when they hear things expressed in a negative way or in a negative tone, it sends the message, I don't love you right now, or I'm upset with you right now. So it's very important that when dealing with a spouse who is a words of affirmation person, that you're doing your best to manage tone and also the actual words that you use. Similarly, silence can be devastating for a words of affirmation person. Not saying anything is actually worse than saying something negatively or rudely. Now, here's a quick example. So my wife and I, Theresa, were doing our nightly devotional, and something about this particular evening's devotional struck a chord in me, and I began to share with her, an intimate sort of inside thing from my past. And to be honest, I don't even remember what it was. I just remember thinking, I'm gonna be vulnerable with my wife and express this thing to her. So I expressed this thing to her, and I say, here is this very vulnerable thing about me. And she just sat there. It took me what felt like a few minutes. I'm sure it was just like 15 or 30 seconds. But, eventually I said to her, I said, I just put something out there and I'm feeling very rejected by you right now that you didn't respond back. I feel like you didn't hear me or you don't care. And she, she turned around and she looked at me and she said, no, I was just thinking about it. I was processing all of that. And I said to her, okay, I understand. I said, what would be helpful for me is if you just kind of, tap me on the wrist and say, thank you for sharing. I'm processing that right now, or I'm thinking about that right now. And that provides me as a words of affirmation person with the ability to just kind of sit back and understand what's going on in her, not to feel rejected, but instead to feel loved by her, and that she's taken the time to think about what I just shared with her. It's exactly situations like that that can lead to days-long arguments. And that's exactly why I've made this video, where I'm going to share with you a few words and phrases that you can actively say to your spouse who is a words of affirmation person. Now, a lot of what I'm going to share with you today, I found in an article by Krisha Lakito. I've put her link in the description box below, and I think you'll really find it helpful. If you hear anything that really resonates with you, be sure to let us know in the comment section below. We'd love to get to know you and to have you be part of the thriving, sexy marriage community, and take the time to read other people's comments as well. I'm sure you'll find some things that really can impact your marriage. Okay, let's start with words that express humility. So if you want to express humility to your spouse, here are some exact phrases that you can actively say to them. Examples of words of humility. I regret, or I'm so sorry for blank. Next time I'll try to blank. I could have done blank better today. You must have been so upset when That last one is so powerful. You can use it in just about any situation when you want to apologize. You must have felt so upset. You must have been so confused. You must have been so hurt. By affirming their feelings, you're actually hitting them with a double whammy of love. And so think about those things. Okay, on to the next one. Here are examples of words of encouragement. I believe in you because blank. It impressed me when you... Well, babe, the good news is blank. Hey, when you need something to lift your spirits, just remember that. And remember that as you're using these phrases, to be specific in the blank spots, right? Like on that last one. Hey, if you ever need to lift your spirits, just remember that I love the way that you make pancakes for the kids every Sunday morning. It warms my soul, it lights my heart, it makes me feel like a kid again. Be specific, don't make things up. Okay, on to the next one. Here are examples of words of empathy. It must really be tough that you blank. I can't imagine how hard it must be for you to blank. That sounds blank. Is that right? Again, that's another one of those affirmations. So be very careful with your words. That sounds awful. Is that right? That sounds devastating. Is that right? Really try to find the right word to empathize with them. I could see how you would feel that way because... And that last one is so powerful because it proves that you were listening. You know, when your spouse tells you a story and you say, wow, I could see how you would feel that way because after all, you know, she stole your purse and then lied to you about it, I would feel absolutely distrustful towards that person. You might even start to see your spouse sort of light up and go, yeah, that's exactly how I felt. Let's go in the bedroom. Well, maybe you could hope for that kind of reaction, but certainly wouldn't hurt. Okay. Finally, here are examples of words of respect and admiration. Great job doing blank. I'm so thankful to have you in my life because blank. I wish I could blank the way you do. It makes me happy when you... I'm proud of you for blank. These are just a few examples. I'm sure you can think of more. And if you have thought of others, let us know in the comment section. We'd love to learn from you. You know, it might sound a little corny to have sort of these rehearsed things that you say to your wife, but think about this. The whole cliche of giving roses to your wife or buying chocolates for your wife, is that not the same thing? Right? These are just traditions that have been passed down to us. And unfortunately, the roses and the flower thing have sort of been, you know, usurped by the gift-giving holidays and don't really appeal to everyone. My wife's not a big fan of roses or chocolates. What my wife does love is acts of service, and we're going to cover that in another video. But I encourage you, if you struggle with words, if you're one of these guys that's like, I don't need to tell my wife I love her, she should already know that. Well, you're probably not a words person, but your wife might be. And so you've got to go the extra distance to say those words of affirmation to her. Think of it like bringing roses home. Instead of bringing roses home, bring some words home, and that'll really light her fire. Now, we've written all of this stuff down and we put it on our blog. You can find the link to that in the description box below. I highly recommend go to the blog, copy those words down, and put them in your phone on your Apple Notes or whatever, so that when you're struggling to communicate with your wife or your husband, you can pull out your phone and you can remember some of these phrases and use them when they matter. When conflict is happening, or even before conflict happens, that's when these words matter. Now, words of affirmation are not the only love language. There's 4 others that are of equal importance, and we've covered all of those in a series that you can click on right up here and continue to watch how you can speak to your spouse who has a different love language than you, and I hope that we'll see you in those next videos. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for even more videos on how to have a more thriving and sexy marriage. You can even follow us on Facebook. I hope you'll take time to do this. We can't wait to learn more about you. We've got a ton of other content on the channel, including sex, parenting, conflict management, and how to have a more thriving, sexy marriage. You can also follow us on Facebook, and I hope that you will. Those links are in the description box below. Our Instagram link is there. Follow us, become a part of the community. We'd love to get to know you, and we'll see you in the next video.